All right, here we are with Gregory. Welcome. It's good to have you. Okay, I'm so excited to have you on this chat. So tell me a little bit about yourself, your excitement. You wrote that you're at Virtuos. Is that
Yes.
right? Is that in Singapore?
No. So it's mostly in China, but I'm in France. I live in Paris,
Cool,
and so
cool.
that's in Cergy. It's north of Paris.
Nice. So you're working for this company doing awesome effects. You were excited to get into the class to learn, looks like, focusing on like the artistic aspects and the 2D aspects and that kind of thing. So, how can I best be of service to you in today's call?
All right. Um, so I had a few questions about mostly the work environment, and then about my own works and probably ambitions.
Mm-hmm.
I came from a background where I didn't go through art school or through video game schools or anything. I just decided I wanted to do effects, so I quit my job and then I just learned.
Good for you.
and
That's
and so
awesome.
that was finding VFX Apprentice was really like a boon for me because I was a bit lost. There's not many like I went on Udemy and stuff like that, and there's not many like professional level courses out there.
Right. I'm trying to fill that gap. That's the whole goal. There's a few out there, but yeah, we're just kind of getting started right now in this community. And I've got more stuff coming, but more to come on that later. But okay. So you're getting into this. It looks like you've got some cool stuff already. I mean, and I've been keeping tabs on your stuff in the course. I don't know if you shared or if you've posted your stuff from the class on your ArtStation, but I'm going to go ahead and bring that your ArtStation up here.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So walk me through sort of your thought process on this guy.
So this one initially, it's just a concept I had of something spinning and getting out of control. So I went through this. I tried to make some shaders for the swirling ball, and once I got the shader working, I started to then imagine the concept. I liked a lot this sort of radiating anime style shockwave on the ground that would grow up and then blast. So I really was inspired by those kinds of things. When I did my research, I was a lot on like I looked up a lot of anime explosions and stuff like that, and then once I got that going, I really tried to focus on. But my biggest problem there was to get the build up to not feel too much like an already explosion.
Right.
And yeah, so that was probably 6 months ago, and now that I think about it, I would probably like let it fall more. It ends really swiftly, and I would like to leave more small particles, small details to linger down, to leave the marks on the ground, something like that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of timing things that are working really well. I mean, you're right. Like the outro could use a little more help with the timing, but overall, I really like how the timing comes together. My thinking is the shapes, the earlier shapes are fighting a little bit. And this is always like a give and take of getting these rotating shapes to work with the radiating shapes. So these
Yeah.
little dust things here are like radiating perfectly outward, but they're sitting right on top of a vortex underneath them. And then they're inside of another vortex out around them. And that's just a tricky one because you don't want, I get it, like you don't want only vortex, vortex, vortex. And in many animes, they're able to pull this off. It's a balancing act, right? Where you want to have it feel like it's shooting out, but then also you want the spinning wind up to feel really satisfying. I think it works better at the end where all the stuff is rotating around here, but there's like bits of it that peek out.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels really, really nice to me because it almost feels like it's breaking out of that vortex motion.
Yeah.
So it's trying to spin around, but it has so much energy that it's spitting stuff out. And then it also, in turn, makes sense down here that it would spit outward as well, because it just can't contain that vortexy motion. It might just be in here where it's earlier. Where was that at? Yeah, like having these very controlled to like right around the core of that intense energy that's like trying to break free. And then the vortex happening further out might be a better composition. I don't know. I would have to see it to be sure, but it just feels like right now they're fighting with each other for prominence instead of just like a little subtle bit of like it's coming out, or maybe it's like more sporadic, like they're just kind of like spitting out versus like constant, and then it's like growing, which is what you have now. So yeah, I think it needs a few compositional tweaks to really get refined. And then, like you said, that timing tweak at the end. I will say, like the light shimmers that you have, all of them are amazing. The starburst in the middle, and then the big rotating burst, and then the lens flare. All of those are just and then the organic like halo thingy that comes up, the kind of like blippy things that you have. I love all that stuff. I think it's a great.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I got a lot of inspiration from watching your videos and Sharon's and other cool inspirations. And those are all shader made. So those are all just shapes that are made from math. And so then I just tweak some values and it does it. Yep. So I'm doing like a circle equation, and then I'm subtracting some stuff and just slightly moving it so it can be animated on a billboard.
It's great. It works great. Well done. Like that one. A waterfall portal. That's cool. Oh my gosh, that's gorgeous. Fun with shaders, right?
Yeah. That's the parallax. I discovered parallax and I never went back to not parallax.
This is rad, dude. I just love it so much. I think maybe the center could use some work.
Yeah.
But this like all this stuff going around the edge is just beautiful. I just love it so much. It's not quite reading as a portal yet on that.
Yeah. It's like, really high.
This side feels better. Yeah, I like this side actually. That's actually pretty cool. You went ham on the parallax. I love it. So yeah. Okay. I didn't even notice that because I was focused on the outside the first time it revolved. It's not doing it any favors to show the backside of that.
All right. Yeah.
Because this side is so much more disappointing.
Yeah. I should put both at the same, like, I should put both the parallax parts on each side. I don't know why I wanted only one side to be good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Initially, the door was going to be the whole verticality of it. So it would do a sort of donut and just like go down. But I only did a circle because of technical issues. I had problem making the mesh the way I wanted it to be.
This is rad. I feel like the stones and then the League of Legends background are just a mismatch. And they're not helping the scene. In fact, you could probably get rid of the League of Legends thing altogether and it would already be better because the styles are so different.
Yeah. This was heavily inspired by Simon Schreibt and like his work on Reyes. Not Reyes, what's the name? I don't remember. His work on shaders that were amazing.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I think these rocks are fine around the side. They more or less match the style, so you could probably leave that, but then maybe lose the hand-painted stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like this quite a bit, actually. And the reflection of the clouds is a nice touch, too.
Yeah, that's a hand-painted texture. I just like dumped into some parallax and got it there.
Yeah.
It's cheap, but it works.
Yep. I'm thinking in a production that would be hard if the skybox ever changes. You have to
Oh yeah.
find a way to change the texture too to match it.
In the
It's like,
meantime, I learned how to use reflection probes and actually do some some real reflection. But and at that point, I was just like, oh, parallax! I can do everything with parallax.
yeah, this is a great parallax thing. I might hit you up later when we do our materials class
Oh
and just
sure.
be like, can we just use that as a breakdown in the class on parallax for the
Oh
parallax
sure.
lesson? Because this is such a great use of that. Um, Now, is this offset out here also parallax? No, it's actually
Which one?
offsetting the vertices I'm seeing around
The,
the silhouette, right?
around silhouette, yeah. It's a donut shape with then under there's some cylinders, and I'm just offsetting the vertices so that they
Yeah.
clump a bit. Now that I see it, since that was 6 months too, uh, I would probably make the mesh with a bit more vertices so that it doesn't look like they really pop out.
Mm,
Because right now I can kind of see the edges.
yeah. Cool. Well, that one's fun. I'm going to find one that I can give you more critical feedback on, I promise. Let's see. Oh, this is cool.
So this is a small interactive map I made for my D&D campaign,
Oh, wow.
just with like shaders and fun stuff, and a bit of an Art Deco style and stuff like that. So like that, my players can more focus more. They do a lot of D&D.
That's really cool. Looks like you're having frame rate problems, or maybe that was the recording.
No, it's the recording at the time wasn't that good. And those I know there's a lot of overdraw on this because now that I now that I did it, I know there's a lot of overdraw because those circles are one big quad. So
Yep. Each different rotation speed is a different card.
yeah. So at some point it gets cumbersome.
Yep, I can imagine. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like this is like for D&D, it's for fun, whatever. So
Yeah.
take it with a grain of salt. But I think you could polish this. I think you could polish it.
Mm,
The beam of purple in the
yeah.
center thing, it's pretty cool. I think it's not the same level of detail as everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, you look at these asteroids, these like they have these little chunks and there's like all these little tick marks. And, you know, when you zoom in, it's like really cool. You know, like, well, I guess even then, like when you zoom in, I would expect to see a little more refined material on the gold to make it feel like
Mm-hmm.
gold. Because right now
Oh yeah.
they're just like flat shapes.
Like more texture on it.
Yeah, like a little bit
Like
of texture to this to make it feel like golden gilded
mm,
things, you know?
yeah. I wanted to go initially for the like this sort of old astrolabe kind of style, and a sort of gold and bronze look.
Hmm.
But I ended up kind of stuck on that because I didn't have the skills to actually make a good material for that at the time.
I think you could revisit it and have a lot of fun where maybe these thicker ones are made of gold, or maybe these thicker ones are made of bronze, and then the thinner ones are the more valuable gold,
Oh yeah,
you know, something like
I like
that.
that.
So there's like a sort of two-tone feeling to it, like in a clock tower or like
Hmm.
a inside of a watch, you know, where there's different materials for the different gears.
Yeah, yeah.
Could
Oh, I
feel
like
really
that.
nice. And yeah, like playing up the surfacing, just like a touch. The material doesn't have to be super complex, but just a little bevel to it with the normals, and then it will catch that light on the edges of it or something.
Hmm.
Could be really
Mm.
cool.
Oh, that sounds like a good idea. I was wanting to visit. I'm doing the campaign of this in D&D, and it's working out well. So I was thinking about revisiting it, but I didn't have much idea. Changing the colors sounds like a really good idea.
Yeah, and then you know some of these have an interesting material going on. I think you could have like some subtle wisps coming off of it. Like you've got like the pillar of wisps in the one, which it probably tells me it's the most important for whatever reason. But maybe some of these have like little solar flares or things happening to them or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that would be really shiny. I'd like it.
Little things that come off of them. Because like it's such an interesting looking orb, but then it just has such a very simple glow, and the glows maybe fine. Like it kind of fills the whole screen, and that might be okay.
Yeah,
this purple, but then including some other kind of magic happening as well would be neat. And then saving the big magic for the one in the center, I think is cool. How it has this gigantic pillar, but again, that pillar, the level of detail is so simple. These strokes are so big and simplified that I think it could be enhanced.
I've struggled with pillars a lot, actually. Like I tried to do some like orbital strikes kind of effects or stuff like that, and I've always found that either the motion, I had problems actually getting it to look like it's slowing down with the size of the screen, or I had problems actually positioning it so that it feels good. I never knew if I needed to use a mesh or like a cylinder or a just a vertical billboard, or I don't have like a consensus on what's good to use.
Well, there's a lot of things. So with any long pillar, there's like you're doing the beam aspect of it, or it's a mesh. So it's either one long mesh or one long beam with one material, and then you're probably going to have lots of particles spawned along that beam's length, right?
Yeah,
like the smaller swirl meshes, which I think is what you've got.
Yeah, those are just trails.
Yeah, and then maybe really it's just all trickery. So probably you don't need more than one particle that spans the whole length, like the one long mesh or the one long beam that's connecting two things. Then from there, it's all about timing out the individual parts and getting these nice little pieces along the length of it that really sell that motion that you're after, whether that's little motes or sparks that kind of emit out, or if it's these like sort of longer swooshes, or maybe it's medium length swooshes that have more like an erratic feel to them with energy. Maybe even do flip books or little dissolve meshes, stuff like that along there. So I think it's just about building up all the components to flesh it out to one asset.
I see. Yeah. Okay. I have an idea, but I have another question about that. How would you imply the sense of scale? Because this is sorts of like this is supposed to be something really big. So moving really slow? Question mark. Does this? How would you make something that looks like really long trails or stuff like that still moving really slow?
So the first thing is, that's a great question. The glow in the center is too thick. So like I would not expect anything glowing to be so thick like that coming from the planet. Like you probably need to have just the core of the glow be thinner. Because like this nice like highlight in the middle, scaling everything down is going to make the overall thing feel more massive. So these wisps are too big and too wide, and you'll find that as you like scale things down and contain them to the thing, like it'll feel a lot better. And as you slow them down, so if they move slower and they are thinner, then they'll feel bigger in scale. But where they're just like traveling, I mean, you got to think about how fast that thing must be traveling. That like thing sliding down the shaft of that, like that's hauling. That's like thousands and thousands of miles per hour. Because the planet is how many thousand miles wide?
No, I don't really know.
It's like I don't know. It's something like 6,000 our planet is something like 6,000 miles wide, maybe 12,000, somewhere in that range. And
Yeah.
you've got one of these wisps just zipping by, and the planet is that big. So it must be
Mm.
going like 50,000 miles an hour, right?
But
Like,
yeah, it's
it's
really
just
fast.
nothing moves that. Well, I mean, some
Yeah.
things do move that fast, but like, it's if it were energy just sort of emanating passively from this, the planet would run out of energy so fast.
Yeah.
If it's like shooting energy like that off like that, like crazy. So something a little slower would be appropriate.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Thinner, more detailed, and slower. Okay.
Yeah, that'll make it
Got
feel
that
much
down.
bigger. Hole in the sky, more parallax.
So this is just an earlier version of just parallax stuff. And
Yep.
it was so serene and so calm, and people really liked it when I shared it that I thought I'd just put it on.
That's cool.
It's simple, but it's calm.
I think if you were just one note on that, like I do like it.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
as a portfolio piece,
Mm-hmm.
it's not as strong. So you might format this to just include down below it as, and here's an older version of it, progress, so that it's clear that that this is the impressive one, and this is like a build up to that. And I like that about ArtStation, how you can do like multiple things in a post, right?
Yeah, I agree.
So I would probably, just for portfolio reasons, so if you're ever showing it to a studio or something,
Yeah.
they know that you know. That's fun. So this is like sucking in energy and then shooting it back out.
Yeah. I was trying to use all the knowledge I had at the time to try to have something build up the line that would then show where the damage would be.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I think that the buildup is confusing to me. You've got the bits that kind of fly far outward. I think it'd be much better if the bits stayed inside of the track.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Like they didn't radiate out, but actually just came to the initial sphere.
Yeah, and the motion is so linear, and they just kind of all go and curve. Like, I mean, more power to you that you figured out how to do that crazy motion.
It's not very robust.
Is it a mesh or are those actual missiles?
Those are actual missiles, and then I have a force field that just sucks them in.
Oh my gosh.
And it's really not a good idea now that like with a bit of the hindsight now. It was very hard to tweak it to have it do the right thing.
They call that being a slave to the technical treadmill, where you're just running as hard as you can to figure out some tech, and then you finally get it to work and you realize it's artistically not even what you wanted.
I fall short to that.
The best of us. Tech can be a very powerful tool if you know exactly how you want to use it. But when you're learning, it's like, you don't know. You're just trying stuff out. So, okay. So the bits crashing through the ground, creating that initial crack. I want to know more about that story. Like, I feel like I'm not getting it from what's in here. Like, like maybe your character has like cords or whips, or it's like whipping these things underground back to him to grab them or something, or maybe I don't know, like it's strange that there's two of them. I think the animation on them is cool, like how they're coming and like forming those cracks, but I don't understand the theme, because then there's one big ball. So like there's these two little things forming the two cracks, and then somehow there's like one big ball. The ground crack texture is pretty. The things traveling are nice, and then the beam at the end is nice, but I just don't know what's going on.
So the ground cracks are directly sourced from your videos that you showed to do ground cracks, and that was really cool. So I started with the ground cracks, and I was
Okay.
combining the ground cracks with an initial prototype of doing just a beam, a fiery beam, and initially it wasn't that good. And I wanted to make a build-up that would really show, because I thought like, okay, working on game, like doing something that's good in readability for gameplay is really good. So let's try that. And so I was thinking, how can I make it so that the lines are visible and you know what
Yeah.
cracks? And on the early concept I do my concepts on Animate. I just like animate some very, very rough, uh, like an animation on threes, just like doing the basic keyframe motions.
Right.
And initially, I had something that would go from the characters, swoop in, and then swoop out, and that worked. And then timing wise, when I tried it to do it, on the effects, I ended up dropping that. But I think then I developed a bias on what I wanted to do versus what the early concept that worked wanted to do.
Mm. Yeah, that's common where you start in one direction and for some reason it changes along the way, but you
Mhm.
keep remnants of that first direction that aren't useful anymore. I do that a lot. Like it's
Yeah.
easy to get lost in the process. So it's good to check in and say, okay, before I move on and invest a lot of time into this next phase, I know some things changed. Are the goals still the same? Or should I create new goals? Or should I throw away other parts that I think were cool before, but now they just don't apply? Right.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's a tricky one.
That
It's a tricky
happens a lot.
one. Aurora summoning VFX. Cool.
So this was also my experiences with timing and trying a lot to like work with colors. I was really trying to like have some colors that went together or that would do something cool. But the timing on those were it's all so even that they were harder to make.
Yeah, I think also it's tricky when you use meshes in this way because you can see the meshes so
Mm.
clearly. You need some like vertex offset or some scale over life of the mesh to like scale it in and out as it goes and like randomize that so that it has just a little bit of life to it. Because as it is now, it's this classic like I see the mesh very clearly and I know exactly the trick you're using, and then the trick fails. So if a magician never reveals the secrets, right? So, um, yeah. And on the disperse, you could probably have these widen out over time to just show that the energy is dispersing.
Mm.
And also,
They're actually widening out, but I'm just very
yeah, maybe a little bit more.
scared to do a lot of stuff. I love change.
And then the bits at the end are very, very detailed.
Yeah.
Which could be fine, but they're also moving really fast. And so they're like tiny, tiny little pixel wide things, which is not necessarily bad depending on the style that you want.
Mm-hmm.
But also moving those very quickly, it just feels like a glitch.
Yeah.
It feels
So
like,
this is a fun story, and I think probably it's something common that I so those are hand painted, like frame by frame animation I made in Animate,
oh,
and
funny.
so I went on like very detailed stuff because I was like on Animate on the screen it's like way big, and so I was like,
Oh
okay,
my
I'll
God.
do four layers of those, and then when they're all on those really small mesh, they're super contracted, and it didn't work at all.
That's funny.
I
Oh
know
boy.
other people do that, but I certainly did.
Oh yeah, that happens. That happens to the best of us as well. You get too close to your own work, for sure.
I did a
Well,
gigantic contraption in the shader to actually get them all to fit together, and wasn't a good idea. It's the same as the other one. This sort of
right.
what you talked about, the tech problem.
So we're at time.
Yeah.
unfortunately. I'd love to spend more time with you, but I need to be going. Any last questions?
Well, I had one last question
Sure.
about. So right now at my new job, I got hired to do TA and VFX at the same time.
Okay.
So that's cool. And I'm scared that it wouldn't like bring me to have like a career in one or the other. Is it something that's often done to actually do both of them?
Well, it definitely makes you more valuable to do both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that, if you split your time between two things, that you won't go as deep on one of them.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that they overlap so much that you can find yourself being very valuable to your team in both of them. And it gives you a good opportunity to understand, is tech art more your thing or is VFX more your thing? And which one do you enjoy more for the
Mm-hmm.
future? And so you'll have a good idea coming out of it, what you like. But as far as like, is it possible? Absolutely. A lot of people pull it off.
Okay.
Really well-known VFX artists like Bill Cladis actually have the title of tech artist. So we think of him as one of us, as a VFX artist, but yet his title is literally tech artist. So I think, I think you can definitely do both. That's not a concern that I would have for you at all. You've got, especially if the type of tech artist that you are is more shader based, and that's like,
Totally, yeah.
So then definitely the overlap is huge, and you can definitely do it. Even if
I
you were
do.
to poke into like blueprints and scripting and that kind of thing as well, like that's still highly connected to effects.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a whole spectrum, and a lot of us tend to be generalists anyway. Like we like doing a lot of different things,
Mm-hmm.
so it kind of fits our personality. Oftentimes, not all of us are generalists, but many of us are, and I think it'll be fine.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I feel the generalist, and most of my work is shader. It's clouds, vegetation, stuff like that.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
Cool, man. Well done, and I'm excited to see you add more of your in-class content to this portfolio as well. I think there's some really cool things that you've
all
been
the
doing.
concept arts, and then I got hired, and then my time just disappeared because I had to go from town to town, and so
I know how it goes.
I didn't.
Whenever it happens, I'm excited to see it happen. That's all. We'll be showcasing some of your work on our social media as well, so it'll get out that way. You don't have to do any of the work; we'll get it out for you.
So cool.
Okay, cool, man. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you, and thank you for taking the time. This is such a great opportunity.
Yeah, of course. Catch you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Catch you later.